Alright, I'm gonna show you how to make one of these here. It's like a whirligig. Wind blows and the wings go. Most people see them all. But we're gonna go over how to make one. Alright, we're back. First thing you need to do is figure out what kind of wood you're gonna use. You need to, I got, the one that I made back here is made out of plywood, and I used basically a cabinet grade plywood. And you can see it's very tight. There's no voids in it, and it's got a hardwood finish on the outside, so it's a little bit better than like construction plywood or something. It's not gonna chip away as much. It's gonna make a really smooth cut too. And other option could be just pine. You could use this, a 1x6 pine board, and that's what we're gonna use on this one I'm gonna make next. It's just a regular 1x6 pine board. I mean, you can get some cedar, I guess, if you want to get real expensive with it, but just for something cheap project you want to do, I'd just use the pine board. You're going to paint it, seal it anyway, so it's not really going to make much difference. And we'll get on to the next. You want to find yourself a pattern, and you can either go online and buy a pattern, but I went online and found some pictures of the hummingbird, and then I drew the pattern out on construction paper. I just picked up a little package of construction paper at Dollar General, and then I drew the outline of the hummingbird out. Took me a couple tries on some scrap paper, but then I got kind of what I was looking for, and I guess it came out all right. I'm not exactly a great artist or anything, but for just a line of a bird, it turned out all right. And then the next thing you want to do is what I did on this pattern is I drew in the details. Then I put, which color you wanted, white, the red, the black, where I wanted it. I drew it on this pattern. That way I can reference this to transfer to the wood once we get this done. So once you get this pattern done, I cut it out of the cardboard, construction paper, and I laid it on top of the wood. Basically laid it on the wood, traced it out, and then I cut it out. Now you can cut this out. I got a scroll saw. You can cut it out on a scroll saw. You can use, if you have a small band saw, you can use that. A jigsaw. Pretty much just about everybody's got a jigsaw. You can use a jigsaw too. You just got to be careful with these little finer cuts of the jigsaw so you don't break them off, especially the beak part. Next thing, I went out and I cut mine out. And now this one I cut out on a bandsaw. I got a small bandsaw and I cut it out on here. This one in the back, the one that I made back here, I cut that one out on a jigsaw. And my opinion, the jigsaw gave a better cut, and it was a lot easier. But the bandsaw is definitely doable. I haven't cut one out on a jigsaw yet, but after I got it cut out, I took a sander. I got an orbital sander, and then I sanded down some of the rough spots. Took the sharp corners off the outside. You don't have to do that. I would take some sandpaper and just where you cut it, and just do the edge a little bit just to get the frillies off of it, just to make it easier painting. But the rough edges will actually give it some texture anyway, and it'll give it more bird-like appearance, I guess, feathers, whatever. It doesn't have to be smooth. And then I took, now I don't know if you see that, but I transferred all the colors and the detail on my template here, and then I transferred that basically to the wood, and I did it on both sides. You're going to paint both sides. And that's where I'm at right now with it. Now it's all cut out. There's nothing really technical about cutting it out. I mean, if you use any kind of tools, you'd be able to figure that one out pretty easy. But there it is. That's the outline. Now, what I'm going to do here is try and find, you don't have to be perfect, but try and get like the center. I got a little circle drawn in on here. And that's where we're going to put our dowel through. Now we're going to put, I have here a 3/4 inch dowel. We're going to cut a chunk off of this 3/4 inch dowel and drill a hole in the bird here with a 3/4 inch auger bit. I'm gonna do mine on a drill press. We're going to drill it out, and then the dowel will actually slip through, and that's what the wings are going to attach to. So that's where we're going to be at here next, is we're going to be doing that. And the width is going to depend upon your wings. Because the bigger the wings you have on it, the more clearance you're going to have from the body, so that when the wings come around, they don't hit the body of the bird. So this wing it's going to be flipping around this way, but the wing is actually going to be at a little bit of an angle. So when it comes around, you want to make sure your dowel is out far enough. You don't want to make a short dowel and then not have it so that when the wing comes around, it'll hit the body. So we're gonna cut this out next. I'm gonna drill that hole. We're gonna get this positioned, and yeah. All right, we got the hole drilled, and this is the spade bit that I was talking about. It's a 3/4 inch. Now you can chuck that up in a drill and do the same thing. What I end up doing is I drill through. You can see the point till the point actually comes through the other side. Then I stop drilling, I flip the piece over, and then I'll start drilling where that hole is. I'll start it in there. That way you don't get tear out on the other side of your piece. Another thing you could do is just use a sacrificial piece of wood. Put underneath this one here and drill through both pieces into the other piece underneath. And that'll keep that from tearing out on the other side too. But just pulling it back out and restarting it in the hole works pretty good. Like I said, this dowel, it fits in here pretty loose. It's 3/4 inch dowel, 3/4 inch ball. But it does fit in there loose, but once you glue this in here, it ain't gonna come out or move. This one here actually fits really loose. But another thing you could do, I guess if that bothered you, is take a small drill bit, drill through the back, and then just drill a pilot hole through here, and then run a screw through, and that'll pin it in place here. All right, our next step's going to be working on the wings, the hubs. That'll be probably the hardest part of this whole thing, is working on the hubs. The rest of this is pretty easy. Anybody can make this. Not a whole lot of skill, I guess. Most skill in this part of this whole thing is just getting the bird actually drawn out. That's probably the hardest part of this whole part so far. And we'll move on to the hubs next. We're back. I went and cut the dowel. So I got my piece of dowel right here. Then I marked the center. Then I marked so I can get it, I got the two outside edges of the 3/4 inch wood here. That way when I run it through the bird, I can kind of figure out where I am centered in the bird. I just mark the two outside lines up with the outside edges of the wood. Then I can find exact center. I decided that I think I'm going to put this screw through the back to hold the dowel, because it is pretty loose. I don't even know if it says 3/4 inch dowel, but I don't know if that's truly a 3/4. Maybe it's not even 3/4 inch dowel. I don't know, they marked it wrong in the store. Let's see, it's just short of 3/4, so it's not quite 3/4. It's not 5/8, but it's not quite true 3/4. So I got a drill bit. I just found one that will work. I guess the whole purpose of that is I just don't want to split any of the wood here. So I'm just going to go right through the back and drill pilot hole. Right in through there. And I'm going to put some of this glue. I'm going to put some glue on the dowel anyway. A little extra. And we're going to slip that right in there. Yeah, it's pretty loose. I'm going to line our pencil marks up so we get it centered in there. And what did I do? What did I do with that screw? Okay. Then I got a little screw here. Now the screw isn't going to go all the way through the dowel. It's just going to, basically it's just going to hit it just a little bit, maybe go in 1/8 of an inch, which would be plenty to hold that dowel in place while the glue is there. But you also have glue on it too. I'm going to set that down. Yeah. Get back in here. Alright, then we're going to pop that screw right in there. Sure, our lines are there. Just ran it until it's flush. And that dowel ain't coming out for nothing. It's pinched right in there. See a little bit of, maybe you'll see a little bit of a gap there. That's how much of a gap I'm trying to make up. But basically that ain't coming out. That's where we're at next. Now you can either start painting this, but I'm going to move on to the wings. And we're going to get the hubs made for the wings. And that'll be up next. Alright, we're out in the garage, and basically I set my table saw up, and I don't have anything like real fancy equipment. This is the bandsaw I use. It's just a Wen. That's what I use to cut the bird out with. Nothing fancy. And I have a rigid table saw, nothing fancy. Yeah, so I don't have anything fancy. What I did was I cut down, used a table saw, and I cut some 1 inch by 2 inch blocks. Just 1 by 2s. And I just basically set it up on the saw here. I used a stop block to get my 2 inches, and I made them all the same. And that was pretty much it. That's that step. The first step is to make these blocks. Need 2 of them. Okay, here's where things get tricky. Now, this piece of wood, your 2 by 2 blocks. What you need to do is you need to cut an angle in each block like that, crosswise. The only way I figured to do it is do it on the table saw. I tried doing it on every other saw I had, and it just doesn't work. And this one here will go this way, and as you can see, they're going to get cut opposite of each other. So if I'm cutting the diagonal this way on this side, I need to be cutting it this way on the opposite side. The safest way I found to do it is I made this little jig here. Now it's just a piece of scrap wood, and I cut a 45 angle right out of the middle. I use a table saw and just cut that 45 out. See, I almost cut all the way through it. And that goes up against my fence, auxiliary fence. And this block goes here. I put the small side on here, just like because this is a 3/4 inch. This would be the 1 inch. So I'm putting a 3/4 inch facing that way. The 1 inch is going this way. I'll put this clamp on here. That's going to hold the piece. Keep your fingers out of there. Then we're going to go up, line the fence up so that that corner meets the saw blade. Let's see if I can do this while you're watching. And hold that on there tight. Take that piece off. Now it's cut this way. Now you got to cut the opposite on this side. Line it back up. Clamp that back in there. This is lined up. And there you have it. Straighten out here. Pieces are cut opposite of each other on a 2-inch block, and it keeps your fingers away from the blade there. Just a real simple jig on them. I guess if I was going to make a million of these things or something, I'd come up with something a little bit better. This took me about 5 minutes to put together just to make these 2 blocks. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good deal. That's what you need. 2 inches by 1 inch. 1 inch, 2 inches. And you're cutting these here. These are about a 1/2 inch deep. The cuts. There you have it. Okay. So that's how you ended up making these hubs. How I cut them out. I found that that was the probably the safest that I've found so far to make them turn out. All right, and I made, while I had it set up, I made some extra ones. So I got 2 sets of them, three sets of them, and 1 extra one here. And these I made. You don't have to, but I made these out of maple because I had the scraps laying around. So I used up all my scraps, and I thought, well, I'll make these out of some hardwood. There were some maple scraps. That's what they are. But you can use the pine. You can use the pine wood scraps. That'll work fine too. So that's that. All right. Next thing's next. We're still working on these hubs. Here's another tricky part to the whole thing too. So if you want a bird that one of the wings goes clockwise and the other wing's going the other way, you got to put the hole differently in one side and the other. So if you want it to go clockwise, you need to drill a hole through the center of here. Now the diagonal is going this way, right? Your cut. So the hole's got to go right there, and that's clockwise. If you want it to go counterclockwise, you need to put the hole through the 3/4 inch. This would be 3/4 wide. The hole's going to go through there. Clockwise, it's going to go through the 1 inch. So side, you're going to drill a hole in the 1-inch, counterclockwise, 3/4. If you want, don't matter, and you don't care if they both spin the same direction, then you would put them both just like that, both on the 1-inch. But if you want one to go one way and one to go the other way, you got to turn the hub to the 3/4 and one hole through on the 1-inch side and one through the 3/4 inch side. That's how you get them to go opposite. If you want them to go straight, the same direction, then you just go through the 1-inch, make the hole through the 1-inch facing up. Okay. The next thing you need some of this brass tube. Let's see if I can. It's a 1/4-inch brass tube, and I bought this on Amazon. And that's going to go in your hub. You take the tube, you're going to drill the hole in here, and this tube is actually going to go through the hub. And that's going to be basically like a sleeve that's going to go in there inside the wood here. That'll help make it spin a lot easier. So that's what you need. You need to buy some of this tubing here, brass tubing, and then you need this 1/4-inch drill. This 1/4-inch brass tubing, 1/4-inch drill bit will be the same size, and then you're going to drill the holes, depending upon how you want yours to spin. If you want them both to spin the same direction, or if you want one to spin one way, one the opposite. So you're going to drill a hole through there, and the tubing's going to fit in, and it's going to fit in there flush. You want that flush. You want it sticking out. So that's where we're at right next. I'm going to go drill these holes. I'm going to use a drill press. So if you don't have one, you have to use a hand drill. But it's a 1/4-inch hole. We're going to put them in here, and I'll be back when I'm done. All right, we're back. I ended up having to change the drill bits because the 1/4-inch drill bit, it was just too tight in this maple wood, but now I'm like a little too loose, a little looser than what I wanted it. But I just could not find a drill bit anywhere in my stash here that was like the very slightest next size up from the 1/4-inch. So that was as close as I had. But we're gonna glue this in anyway, and it's not like it's just in there as a rider. The bolt screw's gonna ride on that. So once we glue it in there, I think it'll be fine. So I'm going to cut these down to length. Just gonna mark them. I'm going to mark the tube where I need to cut them. And I am going to cut mine on the scroll saw. But if you don't have a scroll saw or a bandsaw, you can cut them on a handsaw, hacksaw or something. It's pretty thin, it's brass, it's pretty light material, so I'm going to cut these to length, and then I'm going to glue them in, and then I think this one here I'm going to actually use the Gorilla Glue, the brown stuff, because that will expand and hold that in there tighter, but I'm sure wood glue will work just as well. If you put enough wood glue in there, that'll work fine too. Okay, wings. As far as wings go, it's the same thing as the bird. You just kind of got to wing it. Use your, what I did, I just had another piece of that construction paper that I did the bird body out of. There was like 5 pieces in that one for $1. I took that one piece out. I just freehanded out a wing, cut it out with the scissors, and there you have your pattern. I put some little scallops in there, but you don't have to do that. You can make it straight. And that's going to depend upon what you have actually to cut the wing out with. Now for the wing, these are made out of 1/8-inch Baltic birch. And I had this stuff here because I use it on the scroll saw. But you can find this in craft stores. I buy it on Amazon. It's 3mm or 1/8-inch Baltic birch. And it's like a really high grade plywood. It's well glued together. There's no voids in it or anything. It cuts smooth. It sands smooth, and it's really durable. So once you paint it and seal it and everything, this should last quite a while. And what we're going to do with the wings is we're just going to, these aren't quite glued up yet, but you just glue your wings right into your hubs. So each wing will go in here. This wing is going that way. So probably go the opposite way. Just like so. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to start gluing these up, and then I think we'll be just about on to assembly of it. Right. Alright, we're back. It's actually the next day, and these sat overnight and dried, so my propellers are all connected. And you can see, let's see if I got it. This is what I'm talking about with that glue. You can see that it's kind of all oozing out. Basically expands in there. And this stuff here, you can pretty much just take a razor blade, clean it off, use a sander or something. You can clean all that extra buildup off. Slice it off there. Or whatever you don't want. Scrape it off or use some sandpaper, you can sand it. These here, we're going to take some sandpaper and sand them down, get the edges kind of smooth, round them out a little bit, clean them up, and then those should be ready to paint. One thing you got to watch is your inserts in here sometimes slipped. So you got to make sure that these are flush. And if they're not, you want to take a just a regular file, metal file here. You can just file it down flush. That way it doesn't have any kind of a snag or anything when it's going around. There's no burrs or snags on there. And that's about it for this here. I'm going to get these sanded. And then it's pretty much putting it together. See if it works. You know, we want to make sure it functions well once we get it put together. And then it's painting. I'll see you when I'm done. Alright, I went ahead and attached the wings. It's pretty straightforward process putting the wings on. I just used in this case I had a drywall screw that was long enough, and I put a small washer. I just used this small washer. I put it on the outside of the screw and one on the inside here, just to give it a little bit so there's no friction there. Now we just screwed the screw into the dowel, and that's pretty much where you're at. Nothing too complicated there. You just got to remember to put this, don't screw them down too tight or anything, and because we still got to take it back apart to paint it. And in the bottom, I drilled a hole in the bottom to fit this rod in. This probably, I don't know, you can get like a wooden dowel or something to stick in here, but right now I just got this threaded rod that I'm using to hold it up. But that's where the attachment point's going to be, is right down here. And you can, if you use a rod like this, you can, if you have a grinder, you can grind this off to more of a little bit better of a point. And when you put this in here, it'll give it, well, it'll spin around a little easier than what it does. It's got a little less surface on there, so if you put it on a point on the end of there, it'll pivot on that point and spin around easier. But that's pretty much it, except for doing the painting. And as far as the wings go, you can paint them all one color. You can do like the 3 colors I had before. You just kind of draw some feathered scalps. So, you know, inside here I had 3 colors: a white, a light green, and then a dark green. And then the rest of it, we used our template, and then I drew the lines in on here. And on my template, I put the color codes on here. So, you know, the top of his head here, around the eye, is going to be black. This body part here is going to be green, and then this will be white. Then you can use like a red or a purple in the throat there, and a little bit of black in the wings and the bottom of his wings here. But that's pretty much going to be it. I'll show you when it's done. I'm going to start painting. Maybe I'll come back and show you a little bit of the painting, kind of what's going on there. And right now I'm going to take it back apart and then start getting it ready for paint. I'm going to draw my lines on the wings. I'm going to do the three colors on the wings, so I'm going to draw my lines on the wings, and I'm going to paint her up, get this one done. Okay, what I'm going to paint with is I just got some acrylic paint. I use some acrylic paint and then just use a spray clear coat over the top of it. I'm going to start with the black. I just got my brush, and I'm going to go right around the head here, and the beak is going to be black. But I'm just painting right in my lines that I drew on before. Just like so. And then you got to remember to do both sides, and the back and the front and everything else. And then we'll okay, I got everything everything needed to be painted black. Oop, and I forgot that spot right there. We'll go back at that. But, yeah, everything's painted black. You gotta remember to get in between the tail here. Forgot this side. Using like a long bristle brush, get in there. All covered. Up the side there, this is that. All right. But, yep, it's gonna be just in the face, the beak. I painted the dowel. I guess you could paint that green too. Then I did a little bit in the feathers. I did same on the other side. Just following my lines I drew earlier. And then we'll probably move on to the throat here. Do the color in there. All right, I did purple on the next color. You can do whatever color you want, red or different shades of red there. And then we're going to do another color. I'll probably do a red right underneath that purple here. All right. All right, we've got a little bit of red underneath there. I did it on both sides. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to the white, which would be the white. It's going to go in this here, over the belly, up the neck a little bit, up in the back here. So we're going to move on to white. Okay, we got the white, and that's what the white's going to look like on here. At the belly, white. Don't forget that the white around his eye. It's got the black, the white around his eye. And I'm going to set this out, let this all dry a little bit before I move on to the next colors, because otherwise you're going to be getting your hands all full. Clean some brushes, and see, I already touched the spot down here. Touch it back up. Touch that spot back up. That's it. That's the white. And then the next step will be the dark green. Everything else on the bird is going to be the darker green. All right. All right. Well, I was waiting for the body to dry. I got the white on the wings to both sides, and did the light green on the other one, the white and the light green now. Got a little bit of light green yet to do there, but then what's going to happen is you're going to put dark green on these spots. Okay, we're going to finish this up. Everything's painted. Bird's all green. I put a clear coat on it, and I just used some clear, just like a clear coat, spray can, and the wings are done, all painted, and we're gonna hook these up right now. So we're gonna get my screw here, and I got one washer on, and I got another washer for the other end. So we're gonna put this washer, put the screw through the hole, washer on. Here's started my hole I had there before. A couple turns. That one. We'll get the other one. All right, here you go. We got them all screwed on. And I'll take this outside and we'll get it set up and see if we can get her flying.